This is the Nerdy Romantics Podcast, and I'm your host, Y.M. Nelson.
Hello, Nerdy Romantics. I know this is a voice that you probably are not familiar with, but I am here as a special guest host for today's podcast because the focus of this week's Nerdy podcast, Nerdy Romantics podcast, is your brave host and fearless leader, the one and only Y.M. Nelson. And if I have not introduced myself, which I have not done, I will do so now. My name is Tati Richardson. I am a romance podcaster and romance author. My debut novel, The Build Up, just came out in March. And I am here as a fellow podcaster and fellow romance author to interview my friend Y.M. Nelson about her debut novel, The Accidental Swipe. So how are you doing, friend?
I am great. How are you, Tati?
I'm great. I'm so excited to talk to you about The Accidental Swipe. I'm so elated and happy for you for your debut out here to the world. They can eat it up and gobble it up like I did in I think I read it in like 2 days. So
oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, I read it in like 2 days. I was like flying through it. And not because you were my friend, I just flew through it because it was enjoyable. And I was over here texting you like, girl, what in the world? And stuff like that. In the background, because that's what I do with my friends who write books. So let's talk about you, Y.M. Nelson. We know Y.M. Nelson, the podcaster who talks about books and reviews books and romance books and things like that. But let's talk about you, Y.M. Nelson, the author. So how did you transition, or when did you decide to transition from reader and writer to reader and avid like podcast enthusiast to writer? So basically, I'm asking you, when did you fall in love with romance, and why did you want to write a romance novel?
Well, I really started wanting to write. I think writing was for me the first thing. Podcasting kind of came second a little bit because I had a little bit of fear about putting my work out there. And I will say this because, we're talking amongst friends. A little bit of snobbery going on about my work because I was thinking it was one thing when it was really something else. So when I first started writing, of course, as a kid. The first thing that I wrote for fun was a poem in middle school. I just wrote it for fun. It was 2 stanzas long. That is probably the only poem you really don't get out of me because that is not my wheelhouse. But I've kind of been writing off and on, but everything that I've written has had like a love story in it. I fell in love with love stories, pretty much in high school. I snuck the bodice rippers. I snuck those out and read those. And, when I wasn't supposed to. But some of the reading that I did do that kind of, precipitated kind of where I am right now, even though I didn't know it at the time, was I read a lot of Sweet Valley High books and Babysitter's Club book.
Yes.
And Nancy Drew books, but not the original Nancy Drew books. I read those, but I really fell in love with, they had this kind of reboot.
Like a modern version.
Yes. Yeah. And so if you kind of notice that through line there, it's fun. It's, puppy love in all those books, but there are not a lot of black and brown faces in those books.
Not at all.
So, exactly. And so I've always wanted to have a version of those books that represented me. And then as I grew up, it became a little more adult. I saw a lot of rom-coms out there,
Mhm,
and I fell in love with those. But
mhm.
again, those didn't have the representation that I wanted.
Right.
And so I was always kind of writing a version that had kind of the representation that I wanted. So that's kind of how I came into that part. So where the
Mhm,
nerdy part comes in is, well, sort of from the Nancy Drew, but also as I grew up, I was really into like superhero TV shows and things like that. Not necessarily comic books, but the TV shows and the movies that kinda came from, like, superhero things
yeah.
and Star Trek TNG. I've always
Mhm,
loved Star Trek, and Star Trek had sorta was getting more into the diversity that I wanted.
yeah.
It has the drama,
Mhm,
and I wanted to kinda combine all that, and so that's where the podcast came from, and it felt easy to talk about, like, what I wanted to write about, so
mhm,
that's why the podcast ended up coming first, even though I
mhm.
was kinda writing all along.
Right on along. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like it's so funny. I feel like you and I have so many commonalities. Like, first of all, I'm nerdy too. I love the comics. I love the Wonder Woman and things like that. I love Star Trek.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
Gordy LaForge stan. So like it's crazy. And on top of that, you also had a blog where
Yes.
you chronicle your dating life and stuff like that. I had a blog where I chronicled my dating life, and then I kind of turned it into more of like a sex positive blog where I did like reviews and stuff
Mhm.
like that. I had that for almost 10 years, and then I got married, and then I didn't have time.
Right.
But there was nothing else to chronicle after that. I was like, okay, I'm married, I ain't single no more,
Right.
so ain't nothing else to
Right.
chronicle. But you had a lot of like Tinder dates and Tinder series and stuff like that, which is the basis of part of the accidental swipe. And I'm gonna get into that in a minute. But first, let's talk craft. How did you move
Yeah.
from the part of I want to write a book into I'm serious about writing a book? In other words, what were
Yeah.
some of like the craft things that you honed in on professionally to get you ready to write this book? Were there
Mhm.
groups? Were there books? Were there like methodology that you use? Like, okay, I'm getting serious about this thing. I'm gonna write this book.
Yeah. There are a few specific milestones that I can remember for this particular one.
Uh-huh.
So, but it kind of starts off with the book that's now on the shelf
Right.
that I didn't publish, but maybe one day. I started writing when my day job was starting to look shady.
Mhm.
I started to seriously think I need a side hustle. I
Mhm.
need a side hustle, and my side hustle needs to be writing. Even though I've always been one of those people. Well, I've always been one of those people with the work ethic, always, and that was instilled in me from my parents. And so when I saw that day job starting to do things like merging and layoff and all that
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
stuff, said,
Yes.
you know what? I'm gonna actually have this outlet for myself.
Mhm.
So that was my first kind of milestone where I wanted to actually put that together because that's really what I wanted to do coming out of college. I
Mhm.
wanted to write or I
Yeah.
wanted to be in a career where that happened, but my work ethic brain said, "You need a paycheck."
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
my parents in the background who say, "You need a paycheck
Right,
because we
right,
are not
right,
gonna support you and we are not gonna pay for your college loans. Thank you."
right, right, right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
the creative don't pay until it pays off, basically. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly, exactly. So
yeah.
I told myself at this point, I'm going to try to work on this craft. So if I have something that if it does fall through, maybe I can actually have something to fall back on that I like.
Right, right.
So I started writing the book that is now on the shelf, and I had finished it, and actually the impetus was there was a local contest where unpublished authors can submit their manuscripts, and it was through our public library press, which is no longer.
Mm.
But I started writing for that, and that was where my first rejection came in. And
Mm.
so when that happened, I went back and I rewrote.
Mm.
And at at that time that I was rewriting, I was sure that I was writing a romance.
Right,
I
right.
was I was certain of it. I knew that it was a romance.
Uh-huh.
And I went to a workshop. So this is like the second big milestone. I went to a
Mhm.
workshop. Um, Piper Hughley was at the workshop.
Mhm.
Sharice Hodges,
Mhm.
Kiana Alexander. They were all
Mhm.
at this workshop talking about romance novels.
Right.
And the first thing that Sharice Hodges says is, you got to make sure that you have a romance novel. The first criteria is there has to be a romance
Yes.
as the main plot. So I was like, I'm
Right.
good there. Second criteria has to have an HCA or an HFM.
Yeah, absolutely.
It did not have
No, no.
that. She ended up alone at the end of it, but it was alone and fulfilled.
So
So,
it was leaning more towards women's fiction versus
exactly.
romance. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was so devastated, but then at the same time, I said, I have a women's fiction novel. And that is how I found the Women's Fiction Writers Association.
Mhm. Mhm.
So they also have an unpublished contest. It's called the Rising Star Contest.
Right.
And so I entered that contest. And when I entered that contest, I got some great feedback, did not
Mhm.
win that contest.
Mhm.
And that is when I connected with an editor in the Women's Fiction Writers Association named Sue Ann. And she gave me a lot of helpful advice.
Mhm.
She did a two pass edit, a developmental, and then another edit.
Mhm.
And I realized then that I needed a lot of those craft elements
Mhm.
that I didn't have, like
Yes.
story structure.
Yeah.
I didn't really have that. I needed higher stakes than what was happening. So really it was more like I was writing a TV show than I was writing a story, because you know how a
Mhm.
TV show, it has this
More
happened
episodic.
and this
Yeah.
happened.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I was really writing. And from there, that was a little bit, that was 2016. And at 2016, that was also the time that I was like, because I was sure I had everything going on. It was like I was gonna be ready to publish. This was right before she gave all of this info to me about, hey, this is not ready, honey. And I put a test book out there, which is still out there. It's just basically a really long short story.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of how I first came on the scene. But then when she gave me that info, I put that book on the shelf because I had another idea in my head,
Mhm.
kind of brewing a little bit, and wasn't sure exactly where it was going to go. But then I decided to do the My Tender series blog serial, and that was in 2018. And after that, I was like, people actually like reading about this. Might write a book about this. This book needs to go a little bit in this direction. So that's kind of where I got the hook for this book, was the My Tender series. So the couple were already formed in my mind,
Yeah.
but the hook of online dating and how that turns out, and crazy stuff that can happen during online dating,
Yeah.
all that came about because of the blog serial.
Mhm.
And so from there, I used the same developmental editor, I used the same editor, and she gave me a lot of good points. And also had a couple of RWA writing partners. That chapter is no longer going on, but I still have those writing partners that were from RWA to help as well. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked about craft because I think so many people think that writing a romance is easy, and
It's
that
so
writing
not.
romance doesn't have mechanics or structure or anything like that. Again, you brought
Mhm.
up the plot points that you have to have a romance, you have to have a happily ever after. There has to be some sort of resolution at the end or a resolution for now. And I think a lot of people think, oh, writing a romance is easy. You just write what's there, write some love on the paper, some sex, and that's
Yes.
it. And it's not like that. You have to have something meaty and structural to kind of hook, basically have the hook to hook your writers in. And I definitely think you had the hook with the taking the dating series
Yeah.
and kind of have a novelization of your own experiences. So let's
Yeah.
talk about this Tinder series. What made you want to document that on your blog, first of all?
I don't know. I was just being crazy. It just came out of the blue. I just, actually, I was on Tinder and kind of getting my profile together and everything. And it was just kind of a little bit of madness and a little bit of crazy. And I thought,
Right.
I might want to tell somebody about this. So I just started blogging about it. And, too, at the time I had, um, didn't really have too much content for my blog because
Uh-huh.
I wasn't exactly sure where my blog was going to go. It was it was actually in a big transition. At first, when I started off my blog, it was really about the craft. It was about
Uh-huh.
writing, and it was 2 writers and things of that nature,
Yeah.
and you know how you get into different things where you know, they're
Yeah.
telling you, "Yeah, if you're an author, you should really be talking about writing. If that's not the target audience you want,
Yeah.
if you're writing fiction, that kind of thing." And so I just had a little bit of a change of heart, but why it went that way, that was just, I don't know, shot in the dark.
I guess you were like, I gotta put this somewhere so people believe all this craziness happened to me.
It was right. It was just straight craziness happening. And I've done the online dating stuff. I had done all of that before, but hadn't done Tinder. And now, why did I think I was actually gonna find somebody on Tinder is beyond me.
Listen, you never know. I mean, when I was out there dating, like I didn't use Tinder. I think I used like OK Cupid, which is like the dumpster fire of all these places. And then I used like Match and then
Oh.
Black People Meet. Remember Black People Meet? Uh,
Yes, yes, I
I
do.
used that, and I had some crazy experiences too. And I did I didn't think to like turn it into a novel, but I but you were very brilliant for that. But I definitely did, put it down and chronicle my craziness that happened. So
Yeah.
what did you take from dating that way through online dating in your 30s, late 30s, 40s that you feel like it's like totally different for somebody like say in their 20s?
I think for and even now, I'm thinking about going back out there, not on Tinder, but thinking about going back out there. But I think even now it'll be a little bit different for me and be a little more direct. But when I went out there for Tinder, I was very focused on, this is what I want, this is what I'm not gonna deal with. And in my 20s, when I was out on Black People Meet or on remember Black Voices and
Yes. When
we
Black Planet, Lord have mercy.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
So, and when I was that age and doing that, I was just kind of out there. I was just like, I meet who I meet.
Right.
It's just what it is. There was no focus. There was no, what do you want in a partner kind of thing. And
Uh,
profiles back then, my profiles look very different than my Tinder profile, which was like, I want this, this, this. I
yes.
don't want this. Don't come at me if you just want XYZ,
Because
all that.
I mean, you were grown. Like you were
Yeah.
grown in your 20s. You're carefree. You're like, look, I got a whole life to
Yeah.
live before I get all serious. And then all of a sudden, time
Exactly.
creeps up, and you're like, oh, I guess I better get serious.
Right. And
It's
even
gonna get
then,
serious.
right, and even then, I was serious, but I wasn't as serious as I think I would be today.
Yeah.
Even then, I was more so looking for an activity partner, I think.
Mm,
It was kind of like I had all my stuff together, but I didn't have that part together. And I guess that's kind of where Fortune and I are sort of
well,
similar. We're
similar,
we're,
yeah.
we're not we're the same person, yeah. Just
Yes,
because
yes,
this has is inspired by the
yeah,
Fortune is not me. But I was looking more for an activity partner because I had all the rest of my life pretty much together. I had the
yeah.
work thing together. I had the living situation and all that together,
Mhm.
you know, and I've always been that person because it was instilled in me to never depend on somebody monetarily for something. So I had that part at least together. But what I didn't have together and what I really wanted to do was I wanted to go out and I didn't want to
Yeah.
go out by myself. It's one thing to take a book and go to dinner and read. It's
Mhm.
another thing to want to go out
Something that
bowling or
involves,
something.
yeah, yeah, involves like interaction
Yeah.
with other people. Yeah. That's
Exactly,
tough.
exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to date, and that was the one thing I didn't have together. And so that was really what I was looking for when I went out and made my Tinder profile. So it was focused in that way, but it's still, I think today, if I were to do that, it would be focused in a different way.
Right, right. So you mentioned Fortune, and let's go ahead and start talking about the book, The Accidental
Okay.
Flight. So we have Fortune Edwards, who has her career together, even though some people kind of trying her at work, here and
Yeah.
there. But for the most part, her career is together. She has a good friendship group and things like that. But she just, like you said, wants someone to share those other nerdy, interesting parts with her and her friend Jason. What's his name?
Lewis.
Lewis.
Louis.
I'm getting
Yeah.
them all mixed up, girl. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Lewis.
It's a lot of
It's a
folks
lot of
in here.
beings in here. It's a lot of beings in here.
You
Graham and
know.
Lewis and Seth. Um, he wants her to go out and find someone and stuff, and he suggests the online dating, and she's like, I don't know about this, but he's like, do it, do it, do it. And simultaneously, Jason, who's this big buff construction guy, is dating too, not really finding what he's looking for either. And so
Mhm.
his friend dares him to go on the same site to find someone, but he happens to come across Fortune's profile. He's like, "Ooh, I like what I see," or whatever. But he makes the fatal mistake. This the other thing. You also giving tips in here, girl. Don't be clicking on nobody who has a group photo in their profile. Why would you do
Right.
that, sir? Like, we don't know who you are. And so she mistakenly thinks that he is someone else that she's seen
Yes.
um, out in public, and when she's
Yeah.
because he's also in the photo, and they're kind of similar build and all this stuff. And she's like, "Oh my god, it must be the guy that I'm crushing on." But when she finds out that it's not the guy, but his friend, they seem to hit it off. But then shenanigans happen. That's all I'm gonna say. All types of
Yes.
shenanigans happen that make me want to choke Fortune and strangle her, and then make me want to shake Jason too. So it's a lot
Yeah,
of that going
we can
on.
talk about that.
Yes, we're gonna talk about that, girl. Because I like, girl. And when you say you mentioned you was like, Fortune isn't nothing like me. Fortune is definitely nothing like you. I know. I feel like I know you now. And I was like, YN would never do this.
Yeah, no.
He'll never do this. But Fortune makes some decisions that are very wild. I think she lives in her head a lot, and she makes assumptions about situations because she's living in her head based on previous experiences that she's had. Like, of course this is happening because this happened to me before, so of course this is going to happen now. And she's like
Yeah.
jumps to conclusions and doesn't talk
Yes.
it out. So like she is like the when you talk about miscommunication trope, like she's just like,
Yes.
I'm just gonna miscommunicate
Everything. Yes.
everything and just shoot myself in the darn foot You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
And
And
Jason,
yeah.
yeah. And
And
Jason is
she
trying to work with her, but he's like getting frustrated.
no. Exactly.
Like, girl, what are you
Exactly.
talking about? And I just love the fact that we kind of see her growth of getting or sort of getting out of her head toward the end. And what was it about Fortune's character? Because characters speak to us first. What was
Yes.
the one thing about Fortune's character that was speaking to you first that was like, I need to put this on paper? Like there's something about her
Yeah.
character that's resonated with me that other people need to see or read about.
My first thing with Fortune was she kind of some of her oh wow, this is kind of hard to say. Some of her poor choice making,
Yeah.
some of that, well, actually a lot of that has to do with this kind of she thinks she is protecting herself.
Yes.
She has this wall up and she thinks she's protecting herself.
Yes.
And that kind of derives a little bit from like my experiences with online dating a little bit.
Uh, uh,
I probably should first, say that I feel in general that as plus size women, because that's part of her
her
thing.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that she it's not that she is well, she's at a certain place in her journey that
Yes.
I'm not at that part of that journey, but I have been there. And
Yes.
so I guess
Yes.
that kind of resonated. And I think a lot of what we see now, and two, everybody that's listened to, the podcast knows that I have some college friends on here, and, we're all, of course, we're all the same age. We're all in our 40s, but we're all, speaking from being plus size, and most of us are Black women.
Mm,
And, we all want to see kind of that representation, but there's
yes.
certain ways that we want to see that representation in books. And for me, I think with Fortune, mainly what resonated or what kind of struck me or what I really wanted to make sure that I got across with her character is she is she may not be ultimately confident as far as the desire portion,
Right.
as far as that love life, men desire me no matter what size, or even that I am plus size and I know I look good plus size
Right.
kind of thing.
Right. Right. Right.
She is not at that level yet.
Right.
However, she is not at the level of I'm plus size and I don't look good and I whatever.
Right. Right.
She's not at that level. I
Right.
feel like in a sense for me, or at least kind of for my journey or how I've kind of seen my journey, there's that level of, and I don't think I've ever really been on this level because, but there's that level of I don't like myself because I'm overweight and I really want to lose weight.
Yeah.
There's that level. And we've seen that happen, then, and a lot of that has to do with kind of society hitting you over the head,
Yeah. Yeah.
you got to
Yeah.
be skinny. So
Yeah.
there's that level. You've got to overcome that level to me to then get to like an acceptance level of this is my body, this is who I am. I will love myself for who I am.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then to me, after that comes another level, like a confidence level. Not just I'm accepting of who I am, but I know I look good.
And
And,
I don't care
you
what other
know,
people think. Yeah.
exactly. It's like I know I look good and I'm relishing I look good
Hmm.
in who I am,
Yeah.
whatever size I am. I know I
Yeah.
look good. I have that confidence. And she's not at that level. but she has passed that acceptance level, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I feel like when I was in that online dating headspace, a lot of times that headspace hits on you and kind of chips away at that confidence level.
Absolutely. I mean, they say the demographic that doesn't get picked most online are Black women. And then if you add being plus size on it, then it's
Yes,
even lower. You know what I mean?
exactly.
I know when I was out there dating, even at my heaviest, I think I'm probably close to 250 then, you know, men would say stuff like, you know, do you work out? Maybe you should work out and try to like get me to like go on gym dates with them. I'm like, look, I'm
Oh
not
my
doing that. I want to
gosh.
go eat hamburgers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
It's not a date for me. That's you trying to
Yes,
change me and who I am
exactly.
and stuff like that. And I think it gets frustrating, particularly as a plus size Black woman, because you have all these other layers going on, right? You have race, you have
Yes.
body image, you have age. So you have your 40s plus size age or late 30s plus size age. All this stuff is going on
Yes.
to compound on your like dating experience. It gets so frustrating. And you see that with Fortune, who is just like, does he like me for me? Does he like me because I'm
Right.
Black? Does he like me because I'm plus size? Does he not like me because I'm Black? Does he not like me because I'm plus size? Does he not like? Does he think I'm old? Like all these things are
Right.
going in my mind, and I
Exactly.
started laughing because I was like, I've been there, and I've definitely surpassed that particular journey of my life, but I've been there, and as a character, you kind of like with her, like, girl, the man wants to be with you. Like, can't you see?
Right.
But we have to
Right.
realize people, like you said, are still on their own healing journeys.
Yes.
And for us, we get to see Fortune's healing journey apart from meeting Jason. Because it's not really about Jason. Yes, it's about Jason pouring things into her, but it's
Yes.
also about Fortune accepting these things, being allowed to accept these things. I think one of the
Right.
lines that resonated with me so much, and I highlighted it, was when she was on the date with, well, I don't want to spoil. She was on a date. I ain't gonna say with who, because I'm
Okay.
not gonna say nothing. But she was on a date and the person kept calling her cute. I have been there. Because I'm like, look, cute is for
Mhm.
babies. I don't want
Mhm.
to be cute.
Yeah.
I want to be sexy. I want to be attractive. I want to be beautiful. I want to be desired. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And there's a level of desirability that she was seeking. And she said something like, why pick a man who calls me cute when I could have been out with a man who called me beautiful? And I was like, oh,
Wow.
yes, that's it. You don't want to be out with let me be quiet. These dudes out here calling you cute. You want to be with somebody that calls you beautiful. Like, they
That's
think
right.
you're beautiful. There's a level, there's a difference there. And people,
Yes.
and then for plus size women, people say, "Oh, you ought to accept people calling you cute." I don't want to just be cute. I want to be beautiful and
Right.
desirable and accepted. That just
Right.
hits that line hit home with me so hard, because I was like, I've been there, particularly when I was dating, out there dating, because the
Yeah.
guys like, "Oh, you're so cute." I'm like, I don't want to be cute. Cute is for your sister, your niece, a puppy, a baby. I don't want to
Right.
be cute. I'm not cute
Exactly.
to you. You don't want to sleep with cute people. You know, you,
Right.
you wanna have sex with sexy people.
That's right. That's right. They gotta be sexy, they gotta be hot,
Yes,
They
I'm
have to
not
be
hot if you calling me
desirable.
cute. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it just resonated with me, and the fact that Jason, from the jump, he finds her beautiful, and not only that, intriguing and interesting,
Yes.
and wanting to get to know all the quirky parts of her, and her realizing like this guy is for real. It takes her a while, we realize, for her to
Yeah.
find that this guy is for real. And I think, and Jason is not a man without his flaws too. So let's talk about kind of the characterization of Jason, and what did you kind of base his character on, or is he kind of an amalgamation of the positive experiences you had with online dating?
So with Jason, I think Jason was a little bit of wish fulfillment for for me.
I know that's
As
right.
far as far as the online dating experience, he's a little bit of wish fulfillment. But he's to me, he's also, I have several guy friends, and he's the friend part of him, the part of him that's just like, I just want to hang out with you. I just
Yeah.
want to learn about, and I want us to laugh and talk about XYZ.
Yeah.
That's a lot of, from some of my guy friends, and guy family members too, but definitely like as far as his look is definitely wish fulfillment for
He is.
me.
He's a thick one, girl. He's thick.
Yes. Yes.
He's a thick burly one.
Yes.
I was trying to think about who he reminded me of, and the only thing I could think of was I don't know, not Travis Kelsey, but his brother. You know his brother. His brother that plays football.
No.
His brother is
Okay.
so Travis Kelsey plays on offense. His brother plays on defense. So his
Defense.
brother's a big
Okay.
boy. So his
Yes.
brother's a big kind of
Yes.
big dude. So I
Yeah.
kept thinking, like in my mind, I kept like fan casting him because he's got. I think he has blue eyes, he has blonde hair. I think. So I was like, yeah, that's the kind of guy she was describing, like a big, thick, kind of lumberjack type dude.
Yes. Yes.
He said he's
Exactly.
in construction. He works with his hands and things like
Right.
that. He also works at a school too. So he's like soft, rugged, but sensitive.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and two part of that is kind of like part of that is kind of like the opposite of what I was coming up. Who,
Yeah.
who was swiping right on me?
Yes.
I
Yes.
I was getting the opposite of that. That's kind of my thing. I like guys who are big, guys who work with their hands, and that's just kind of who these are the people who I grew up around. These
Right.
people,
Right.
I'm from the country,
Yes.
and that's how my whole family was. I mean, they were either, you know the guys were either farmers, or they fix stuff, or
Mhm.
they're mechanics,
Mhm.
or stuff like
His
that.
blue
And
collar
it's like,
brothers. Yeah.
exactly, totally blue collar. And the other thing about it was, I wanted for Jason to not be the guy that we see all of the time, the athletic
Yes.
guy, you
Yes.
know,
Yes, more
or
plus
the
size
the cut.
need
Yes,
love in books
right.
too. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
wanted him I wouldn't necessarily say dad bod at this point, because he does have some
I just
definition
said plus
a
like a
little
plus
bit.
size man, not a dad bod.
Yes.
It's different.
Right.
Dad bod just don't care no more. Like you just don't
Yeah.
care. He cares. Like he's like, I care about my
Yes.
body, work out, I
Yeah,
care,
he does.
but I'm not like
Yeah.
beating myself over the head.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
type of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the dude loves IPA beer and cinnamon rolls. I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
you can only
Yes.
be so cut, but then at the same time, he he actually, works or whatever,
Yeah.
so he's working with his hands, and he's lifting, heavy things and stuff. And so, that's kind of what I gravitate towards. That's kind of what I like. That's not
Yeah.
always what I was getting. So that's why I say he's kind of a wish fulfillment. But personality wise, and two, the other thing about him that I really wanted to kind of make sure that we get across is that he is really not about playing games. He is
Yes.
not at that point in his life.
Yes. Yes.
And, a lot of the guys that I talk to now, as far as friends of mine and family members, they are in that point at their lives, and of course they're around, a lot of them are around this age or older.
Mhm.
But that's always kind of been an attractive thing for me.
Yeah.
I've never really wanted to do that game playing thing,
Yeah.
even in my 20s.
Yeah, you
I
need
didn't
somebody that's a
understand
straight
that.
shooter. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And I always wanted that in somebody else. And I wanted to make sure it came across that he's not at that point,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
It's clear from the beginning that Jason has had terrible luck in dating. And he's not really a person who dates all around just to be sleeping with people and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He's somebody who wants a serious relationship,
Yep.
And so when his friends, I think his friends think it's a joke to put him on the plus size thing,
Yes.
especially, Seth or whatever. I don't like him. Seth, Seth and stuff, like go on here. They think it's a joke, ha ha. But he finds someone amazing on there, who,
Yeah.
captures his attention. And I think for him, he took the whole, it was a dare, but I got something amazing out of this. And
Mm-hmm.
then when we get to the point in the story where everything just goes to shit, like everything starts
Right.
coming together and crash down, and you just like, oh girl, what is happening?
Yeah, right.
We realize even still, Jason still wants this woman despite her poor ass choices.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Poor choice. I'm like, girl,
Exactly.
why did you do this? What was the point, girl?
Even though he's
All
mad
because
with
of
her.
all because of again miscommunication in her head, misunderstanding. And so, we realize that I think Jason is a lot better man than, you know, at times Fortune deserves, because some girls, these choices, girl, that you are making, but he's
Yes.
patient with her. I think the number one thing is that he's patient.
Yeah.
And that's what Fortune needs in her life at that moment, somebody who's patient with her
Right.
to
Right.
see that she's
Exactly.
working through these things. And then she might need some therapy. And she need to work through these
Right.
things. Work through these things, not just her friends, to lean on. She might need some therapy to go through
Yeah.
this.
She does. She needs a little help.
Yeah, she needs a little help. So
Yeah.
what's been the first, what was the one, you don't have to give anything away majorly, but what
Okay.
was like some of the hardest scenes for you to write in the novel? And what
Well,
were
this
some
is
fun things for you to
was
write?
some fun things. The hardest scene for me to write, and this is not really giving anything away if you read any reviews because a lot of people have talked about it, but the hate sex scene, it was the hardest one for me to write.
Ooh, no,
Favorite
it was
too.
good though. It was good.
But I will say it was hard for me to write because I did not, so this is the journey of this. I did not start out thinking that I was going to write steamy romance.
Okay.
And, in my first little test book that's out there is Fade to Black. Now it's like, I think what they call it now is sweet steamy. So
Or
you see a
closed door.
little bit of
Yeah, yeah,
something,
yeah,
but
yeah.
they close the door when the sex happens.
Yeah.
So I didn't start out thinking that. And even with this book, when I started writing it, I didn't start out thinking that either. But
Mm.
Jason and Fortune said, we want to have the door open
They
and
spoke to
we
you.
want to have all this. Yes, exactly. They were just like, okay, this is what's going to happen. So I
Uh,
kept seeing this scene in my mind, but it wasn't coming out kind of like I was seeing, because I wasn't I wasn't really, I didn't have any experience writing that, you
okay.
know.
Okay.
So
I thought it was tastefully done in a way
thanks.
that also we let's not also forget this book. It has a white guy and a black woman, right? It could have went another way with this hate sex thing, and it would have made people look uncomfortable. You know what I mean? But I don't think
It could have.
did it in a way that they'd be like, this white man kind of aggressive, like he kind of
Right.
aggressive toward this black lady, and it's kind of like making me uncomfortable, because we have seen that in a number of interracial romances where it gets a little funky and weird sometimes. And
Right.
people don't realize that you need to also take into account certain nuances with that, and it can be done in a tasteful way. But I think you handle it in a very tasteful way, and it's slightly, like you said, sweet and steamy, open door, and I don't have no complaints about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you said it was difficult for you to write because it's not your
It,
wheelhouse, but you
yeah,
did a good
it
job.
was yeah, it wasn't my wheelhouse. And then just like you were saying, it could go very wrong, right? So
Right.
in my first pass, I wasn't really sure how this was coming off. And
Yeah.
the other thing about it is that I wanted to make sure that one of my big things is making sure that you show consent
Mm-hmm. Baby. Mm-hmm.
and making sure that there's protection, right?
Yes.
So those are my two kind of big things. But the in my first pass, when I gave it to beta readers, I felt kind of weird because I was like, this is not kind of, I mean, he's coming off. Jason is not an alpha. He's
No.
not an alpha at all. But he was coming off a little bit alpha slash and it was coming off a little bit of like dub con,
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
giving those vibes in my first pass.
Yeah.
And I said, I need help, beta readers, because this is
Yeah.
not coming off correctly. And the scene was really, really long at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
way too long. It's like, oh my gosh, are these people still doing this? Right, you know, this is too much. But I was my beta readers, they helped me. They helped me with that. And so, I think this time around, of course, it's great to read. It's
Yeah.
just it was just hard to write.
Okay, so what were some of the fun parts that were like light-hearted? I think the banter is really good in here.
Oh, I love the banter. My favorite thing to write is dialogue. And
Yes.
sometimes I just I I I hate description so much. Sometimes I just write the dialogue and then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, in revision we will add the
Yeah.
description.
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because the thing is I'm that visual writer that sees the whole thing in my mind, and I know y'all aren't in my mind, but sometimes I think y'all are.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
y'all like, y'all know what this movie theater look like, or y'all know what this place look
Like
like.
you've
I don't
been in
need
a
to write.
movie theater, you know what that look like. You don't need to describe it. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like I don't, we don't need to describe all that, but I love the banter. I loved there are a couple of scenes where the scene where they talk about Golden Girls and about although there's a couple of scenes. There's one with Jason where they talk about Golden Girls, and then there's one Fortune and Louie where they talk about Golden Girls, kind of like that aftermath of the
Yes.
first date. That was fun to write.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and there's a scene at the end. Oh, there's another scene it's really fun to write, and here's a nugget for all of y'all.
Yes.
So on her second date, she goes to a ramen joint. So this is how that scene came about. So
Uh,
I had some PF Chang's and it was hot. It's like their chicken miso,
yes.
and it was hot to me. Now, to most people, it probably isn't, but I have a low tolerance. So it was so hot. I was like coughing and I was drinking water, and I was like, no, you're not supposed to drink water. You're supposed to drink milk if it's
You're
something hot.
right.
It's like, I was like, and I felt my face heating up or whatever. And right after that, I wrote that second date scene. And that's where that came from,
Wow.
because I had had dinner and I was ready. I mean, I sat down, I was like, "Oh, yes, I'm ready for my PF Chang's chicken miso. Yes." And it was just so hot and I was like, "Oh, I
Were you
can't
on a
eat
date
this."
now? Or were you on a
I was
date?
not wasn't
Okay.
on a date.
I was like, girl, like this is
Me,
good.
that would have been
Like,
wild if I was. Yeah, no, I would not act that. Like,
I
I'm
would
like,
probably. I would. I'll never forget. I went on a date once. This is so out time. I went on a date and I wore these shoes. and they were like not working. Like every time I would try to walk, my ankle would be all acting crazy, like I was like,
Yeah.
and so I'm trying to walk and look cute, and I'm like, this is not gonna work. I didn't even make it halfway to the movie theater.
Oh my
I was
God.
like, look, turn around, I gotta go home. And the guy was like, you sure? I said, yes. Either turn around and go home, or I'm gonna go in the shoe store and go buy me some sneakers because this is not gonna work. So he was
All
like, okay,
right.
I'll just take you home. The date was over because I could not walk in. What made me think I was gonna walk in those shoes? I'm like a
Oh
duck.
my
It was
God.
awful. It was awful. Okay, put that in your next book.
That's right. That's what's gonna happen.
It was bad. It was girl, it was so bad. But I think we all have those stories that are just like
Mhm.
wild and crazy. And for
Yeah.
you to take your experiences and I think turn them into this positive and this beautiful book about a woman coming to terms with all the things she's gone through in her life. I think that's a wonderful thing. I think it's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
I think, sometimes pain turns into like, a beautiful experience. And
Yeah.
for me as a reader of this book and this being your debut, it was just awesome and I could relate so much with so much of what Fortune had gone through, particularly with the dating and meeting
Yeah.
guys online, and even some of the things that Jason's gone through with like
Yeah.
dating people and you just know y'all don't fit, but people think y'all should be together, and all of
Right.
that. It's just like I could relate so much as a person who was at the time dated in my 30s and stuff like that. It was just really, really hard for me to like, go through it and for me to like really, really relate to this on the page. I think it's great. I think you definitely knocked it out of the park with your
Thank you.
debut here. So what's next for you? Left us and with a little bit of a cliffhanger, girl, at the end.
It's
So
yeah, it's a little bit. It's
it's
more of a HFN than an
a habit for
ATA.
now. It's a habit for
Yes.
now. Yeah.
So
Well, for you as a writer, I see nothing but amazing things going on for you. I definitely see you having
you.
a great readership. People have been enjoying. I've seen the reviews. I don't normally read reviews, but because I was interviewing you, I read reviews. So
Okay.
I read other people's reviews. I don't read mine. But
Right. I try not
people
to read mine, but I
right,
can't
people have
help it.
really been enjoying it, particularly on Amazon. They have really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. What's been the most fulfilling part for you in this whole kind of new author journey?
Really, to see people actually just say, which is why I shouldn't read reviews, but I do, but to see people say that they connect with the character, or even to see them get it. Like when you said, she's making like when I said she's making poor choices, you're like, I'm just gonna wring her neck. I was like, yes, she's getting it. She get it. She understands it. It's like when you feel a certain way about the characters and you see that other people are feeling that same way, it's like, oh my gosh, I wrote it where they can get it, where they can
And that means
understand it,
exactly
and
you've
that
done your job as a
it
writer.
connects. Yes.
Yep, yep.
And that just that's the best feeling ever,
Yep,
you
that's
know?
yeah. That means you've done your job as a writer. You've relayed that and really developed that character so well that we're having these visceral reactions to
Yeah.
who they are and what the choices they make on page that just frustrate the crap out of us.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But but I'm glad it's frustrating, but not necessarily so frustrating that you will put the book down. It's like they want to
Right.
see. I had a friend say to me, I want to see them together. It's like, I know they're going to do this, but I want to see them together. And I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that.
Yes,
She's sticking with it. She wants to see them together. I'm like, yeah, that's the best part ever.
that is the best part. All right, so I know this is your podcast, but since I'm the guest host, I'm gonna do what I do on my podcast,
Okay.
which is we're gonna play a little game of this or that to
Okay.
round out the interview,
All righty.
and we are going to see what just say the first thing that comes on your mind and what
Okay.
you think. So your favorite book as a kid. I think we talked a little bit about that though. Sweet Valley
Sweet.
High.
Yeah, yeah. I love the Sweet Valley High series. I did mention though that I was
And
a little
Nancy
bit of
Drew.
in Nancy Drew. I did mention though I was a little bit of a snob, so I will say also that big favorites was Charlotte's Web, and that's like one of those literature books that everybody whatever. That was one of my favorites, and so I had to be a little bit of a snob there. Not all about Sweet Valley High, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you like writing heroes or villains?
I like writing heroes
Okay.
because writing villains is very hard and to go through emotions. Mm.
Do you like writing love scenes or dramatic arguments? I think I already know your answer.
Well, dramatic arguments.
Yep,
I love dramatic arguments.
yep, yep, yep.
Oh, I love reading love scenes. Reading dramatic arguments and looking at them on TV shows and movies, they frustrate me so bad.
You give me anxiety. Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Your favorite place to write?
Oh, I won't be specific about it, but in the library. I
Okay.
won't be specific about which
Yeah,
one,
don't
but
have nobody coming there looking for you. Come on,
right.
I heard on the podcast you like to go to XYZ, so I've been stalking you.
Right, exactly. I was like, no. But in the library. Yeah.
The last romance novel that you read.
I listened to The Change Up by Megan Quinn,
Oh, okay.
and a lot steamier than I think I'm going to ever write. Well, this is partly an author thing, and it's also partly indulgement thing now that I've actually started reading some of her stuff. But I
Uh-huh.
started reading her stuff because she was an also bought under my book, and I said, "Well, I don't really know her that well. Let me read her." But the whole I love funny bits like that.
Mhm,
So yeah.
mhm.
So that's why I've kept reading her. She's
D-
hilarious. So.
Do you write to music? And if so, what type of music do you write to?
So this is kind of I don't exactly write to music, but music is definitely part of my plotting slash thinking process. And I have a playlist for every piece of writing that I do. So you'll see in future books my playlist. So I always make a playlist, but when I'm actually drafting, sometimes it's hard because my playlists are songs with lyrics.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's hard to hear my own words when somebody's singing their words.
That's true. Do you have a favorite word that you use in your writing?
Favorite word. Hmm. I don't know that I have a favorite word that I use in my writing. I have one that I should be using. My favorite word that I should be using because it's a filler word is just. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, I try to take that out, but it doesn't always happen. Yeah. But I don't know.
So
Hmm,
let's do some fan casting. If your
okay.
book became a movie, who would you want to play the lead?
Okay. So I do have a Pinterest board with a lot of inspirations for this, and I do this a lot. I do fan cast a lot. So with Fortune, I immediately saw her as Danielle Brooke.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And for Jason, I couldn't think of the person that I couldn't think of the guy, but I could see him in my head. And now I realize that the guy that I had been seeing was Tom Hardy.
Ooh,
But
yes. Tom Hardy.
yeah, right? Tom Hardy with Jonathan Scott, the Scott brothers with that kind of bent because Jonathan Scott has that kind of nerdy from the Property Brothers. He has that
Yeah,
kind of nerdy bent. And of course, he's a construction guy.
construction guy.
Um,
Yeah.
but the look is Tom Hardy.
I love me some Tom Hardy. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, where do you see romance novels going in the next decade? Or where would you like to see romance novels going in the next decade?
I would actually like to see them diversify even more. People
Mhm.
get even more courageous with them. We see this in the indie space a lot. And I would also like to see them get more of the respect that they deserve.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even
And
though
for
the money says that they should get all the respect, right?
right, right, right. Romance makes the most money out of all genres, but we get paid the least.
Hmm.
So yeah. Anywho.
And we don't get on the list
No,
like we
don't get on the
should.
list, even though people are reading us. This is my last question. So
Mhm.
when it's all said and done, it's kind of a two-part question. When you're all said and done, you've written like a million books. What do you want readers to say about the books you write, and what does literary success look like to you?
So I want them to say that the book inspired them to read more or slash write themselves. My part-time job, which I wish was my full-time job at this point, other than writing, is teaching.
Mhm.
And I teach English, and I love to see that light come on when students are writing and they're inspired. I love that. The second part, literary success, it will be when my books get into libraries. That's going to be, I feel like that's going to be success for me.
Yes, yes, yes. And as a person with a book in a library, it if you were a kid who grew up in a library system like I did,
Me.
shout out to
Yep.
Cal County Public Library, it's wild to see it come full circle to see your book in the library that people can check out on Libby, physically,
Yes.
wherever. I'm like, and then your friends contact you. I'm at the library. I see your book. I'm like, what?
Yes.
That's crazy. But it's gonna happen for you. I
Yes.
know it is.
Thank
And so I just wish you much success, friend. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
you. Oh
And
my God,
tell
this
us,
was fun.
we, I know this is your podcast, but tell the people where they can get more information on your writing, specifically on, all the things that you write and where they can purchase the accidental swipe.
Oh, yeah. So ymnelson.com, which, yeah, I guess that is different from the podcast website. So my website, ymnelson.com, is where all my books are and everything about writing, and the blog posts that started this all, they are still there. With the accidental swipe right now, you can get the ebook on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited, but it will not be on Kindle Unlimited for long because,
Okay.
again, I believe in being in libraries. So if you are on Kindle Unlimited, get it now, download it now, because it will not be up there for long. My paperback is everywhere that most paperbacks are sold. If you want an autographed copy of the paperback, it's at Park Road Books, Charlotte, North Carolina, and they have a website. I think it's parkroadbooks.com or I know their Instagram is Park Road Books CLT.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been my honor and my pleasure to sit on your podcast and repay the favor and talk to you all about your debut book, just like you did me. I'm lucky and blessed to call you friend now. And
Yes.
we're going to be in each other's lives forever now. And I'm
Oh, you
already
know
saying
it.
it. I'm already saying it. So, and I'm so glad that, we have hooked up and became friends and we're both on this journey together. So
Yes.
thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yes. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Can't
And
wait to have you back again.
of course, girl. And I'm going to have you on my podcast too. Boom, boom. There you go.
While that's the end of our discussion, it's not the end of the story, so to speak. We now have premium episodes, which you can get in your feed, wherever you listen to podcasts, or in your inbox if you listen on nerdyromanticspodcast.com. And if you want to know more about the Nerdy Romantics world, sign up for our newsletter. Visit my website at nerdyromanticspodcast.com for more details. Now that's the end of the story. Until next time, thank you for listening.